If you have a whole countertop full of clutter, right? Or you dump out your purse, or I'll even scale it down to, for example, you're doing a puzzle. Okay. You have all the puzzle pieces on the table. As you sort the puzzle pieces into categories, you've got your edge and your corner pieces. You've got pieces that all have like the red in them. They've all got, you start sorting them into like colors. You do this with your purse. You do this with whatever's on the countertop. Doesn't matter what the disorder is, what the clutter is. When you start sorting it, as you're doing it, you'll go, oh, wait, there's another piece, another corner piece that I didn't see, or another edge piece. I didn't even see that one before. So as you're clearing the space, new things are coming into view that you didn't notice before, they weren't visible to you.
Hi, everyone. Jacqueline Kuhn here with JacquelineKuhn.com, powered by angels, with episode 1 of our Guided Together podcast. My guest today is Nicole Chamberlain. She is a professional organizer and life coach and founder of the Chamberlain Method. Our theme today is really going to be about uncluttering and living your soul's purpose with ease by uncluttering your life. We talk about uncluttering our minds, but we actually have to unclutter our spaces too, because you cannot be living your soul's purpose if you fumble around every day trying to find the things that are essential to your living. So let's welcome Nicole to the podcast. Say hi to our guests, Nicole.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Jacqueline.
You are so very welcome. And this is episode 1. So for all of our viewers, thank you so much for tuning in to this very first episode of this podcast. We are going to, before we begin the interview and the conversation, we want to start with a grounding and a protection. So I invite everyone to join me to close your eyes and take a couple of deep breaths. We always do in with the mouth and out with the nose. And I'm going to invite Archangel Michael to join Nicole and I and all of the folks watching the video to protect us from any lower energies and not allow lower energies to interfere in this episode, in our lives, in our day-to-day activities. We want to set the intention for Archangel Gabriel, the Archangel of Communication, to help us communicate clearly, to help the folks listening understand what we're trying to communicate, and set the intention for unity, collaboration, inspiration, and intention. And so it is.
And so it is.
All right. So Nicole, why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about you and what it is you do to help your clients?
Okay. So the really broad view, just to start with, of what I do to help my clients is that I help them create ease and order in their home, which is to say in their life, because everything starts at home, right? Everything starts at home. So from my perspective, anything we're doing at home is our life. So that's why I say, I create ease and order in your home and in your life. And, to say a little bit about me, I guess it's kind of like what brought me to this place, this point in my life of what I'm doing, is to say, is to give that explanation about me. But my last life was in catering. So I had over a decade in catering. I lived in Los Angeles for 20 years. I was fortunate enough to work in the homes of millionaires and billionaires, which was not only a joy. Of course, I worked in these beautiful homes in these, gorgeous aesthetic. But I was really fortunate enough to observe the day in and day out. I worked for some families for a solid 8 years, 5 years in some of these families' homes on an average of, 5 days a week, give or take, of course, but so I got a really good bird's eye view of how they were living on the daily. And, what I really observed is their values and how they created support for themselves in their homes, they created the support in their structure all around. So whether it's with work, or within the home, but I was able to really observe this on a daily basis. And I learned how to bring that home with me and how to apply it and implement it into my lifestyle, which I'm clearly not a billionaire, and I certainly wasn't, gosh, 10, 15, 20 years ago. Certainly when I was not, when I was starting out. So what I learned is how to implement that into my lifestyle at my budget, and how anyone can on any budget. So it's not about being a millionaire or billionaire, which is, those are great aspirations. That's fantastic. There's nothing wrong with being a millionaire or billionaire, but you don't have to wait until you make the money to create an environment that supports you. And in fact, it's important to create that environment that supports you so that you can, continue to level up and achieve whatever it is you're going to achieve. So, I transitioned out of catering into professional organizing. We worked with some professional organizers in the catering. I got incredible spatial awareness doing that job as well, but I always kind of secretly wanted to jump ship into the professional organizing. So ultimately I did transition into that. And then in my years of doing that, I recognized the need in so many households. And again, in the professional organizing, I was working with quite a spectrum of households, the really affluent to, really struggling. And which also should let people know that just because you are struggling financially doesn't mean you cannot afford help and support. It is more accessible than you might think. And so don't rule it out. Don't cancel it out and say, well, I can't afford, a professional organizer to come help me, or I can't afford help in this area. That's for other people. So don't just automatically rule that out and assume that's for somebody else. And I found in the gamut, again, regardless of financial state, that it's really not common for people to understand how to arrange their household to support them, how to create organization within their house. I'm not saying a lot of moms didn't do a great job of raising their kids. I had an incredible mother. There's no lack of love in my mom and my household and growing up. However, it is a learned skill. It is a learned skill. It's an acquired skill. You don't just come out of the womb, automatically knowing how to arrange your house and maintain that. Just like, men don't come out just knowing how to build a truck, like knowing how to do mechanics, that's just not how it is. So I recognize that there's really a need for the education, acquiring the skills, learning the skills, but the support of, so many people have shame and guilt and, self-blame and all of these things attached to it. And what they really need is the encouragement, not being told like, oh my gosh, why can't you keep up your house? You're such a loser. That's the opposite of what is needed. And so anyway, I found a real need for the long-term guidance of how to get your home in order, then how to maintain it, And then to take it a step even further, how to curate your home and your future, because it's much more about curating and driving the boat versus just maintaining. It's not, there's so much more to be had than just keeping up.
I love a couple of those points that you made. And the first point I kind of want to circle back and put a pin on is
Sure.
the fact that you don't worry about whether or not you can afford it. Because I know in what I do, that if you do have too much stuff that's not serving you, you're actually blocking abundance. You're blocking things to come into your life by hanging on to too much. It's when we let go and we open up the possibility for new things coming in. So just because right now you may not have what you think is enough, you do need to kind of do that declutter of your space to allow the abundance to come through. Yeah,
Absolutely. So on that point, less is more. That's a fact. And the caveat of less is more, or the juxtaposition, I don't know what you want to call it, but the myth that everybody seems to, or a lot of people think, is that, decluttering or organizing, professional organizers and everybody, they just want you to minimize, be a minimalist, get rid of everything, purge, and while that is a factor and it may be necessary, it's not an absolute. It doesn't mean you cannot have your things. You can have your things. But less is more. And you learn this as you are creating more space. You're physically gaining space. When you start to organize and actually arrange, you categorize, you give things homes, right? And when you actually start putting in the order, it's visible. Like, you can visibly see the space that you are gaining. And when you start putting the value on the space that you're gaining, you actually start to feel and see how you are expanding. We are expanding as a spiritual being. We are actually expanding and gaining space, and we're gaining command over space. I'm getting very,
it's so right. You're so true.
Philosophical, but yes,
no,
I love
so
that topic.
Yeah, it is about obviously keeping the things that are important to you.
Sure.
You can certainly have your mementos, you can certainly, keep your photo books, but don't have them spilling over your floor so you're tripping over them, because that doesn't expand your world. That actually is contracting and limiting your ability to get what you need to get done. And in the spiritual world and in the angelic realm, it's really about what is filling up your cup, what is truly filling you up. And stuff may fill you up if it brings you memories, but it may not if those memories come with inconveniences, like not being able to find your keys or your boots or your whatever, right? So
Sure.
it's all about working with someone like you to understand how to keep the things you want to keep, but keep them in a way that you're not impacting your overall home environment. And it's like, listeners out there, like, how many of you take 10 minutes to get out the door because you literally don't remember where you put your keys? I will tell you that my husband is unbelievably good at putting things in their place and where they're supposed to be. I am not, and he sometimes will see my keys where they don't belong and put them where they do. It sometimes annoys me, but I'm also grateful, because the next time I need them, I don't have to go looking for them, and I go about my day with greater ease.
Yeah.
And I don't have to worry about that. So, when you think about this whole process and it is actually a spiritual process, because everything is energy, and energy is all spiritual. But what are some of the hardest things that your clients have to work through when you work with them to reorganize their homes?
Yeah. So the resistance to being willing to change habits or change mindsets, I watched them struggle internal. I mean, it's like I can almost stand there and physically watch the internal struggle happening, while they're trying to change their operating bases. They're trying to change the environment that they're living in, the way that they're conducting themselves and in their lives. And yet the resistance to the way, the nervous system wants to keep you safe. It wants to keep you doing the same thing because it's what it knows. The resistance to, what they believe is true, beliefs that they're holding on to, just clinging on to, these are the things that clients struggle with as far as making the changes. They also have personal things they're struggling with, such as grief, losses that they've been coming off of, or they're struggling with the physical challenges of things like, ADHD, or just even not to go so far as to label it as ADHD, but there are, genuine, sincerely, menopause brain. We start going through changes during those times. It's physical and it's a challenge. I mean, these are barriers, brain fog in general. The mom brain is a real thing, pregnancy, all the hormonal changes and physical things that are going on. These things are real. I mean, they're real. We're going through it, so these are barriers and things that we struggle with to overcome as we're trying to put order in, those are real things. But then there are the things like the grief and loss, or, and then just, beating oneself up with the blame, shame, the guilt, of I'm such a loser, I can't get it together. And I've failed so many times. Why,
I know.
and so they stop trusting themselves, that they lose the trust in themselves that they can keep it this way. They can maintain it. They can learn something new. They can do something different. These are the things that people struggle with. And this is what I help with.
Yeah. And I think it's when we talked earlier, you indicated one of the key points of entry to working with you is just a willingness and an openness to change. It's have that willingness and openness to be able to work with you. It's not going to happen overnight, and it may end up being one corner at a time,
Sure.
whatever's needed, but have that willingness and openness, because that's all you need to make the initial difference.
For sure.
Yeah. Change is always hard for us as humans. That's just, we're not, we get into patterns and we live those patterns, and those patterns are with us. And sometimes the change is just small, and sometimes the change is huge.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, for you though, as a coach and a professional organizer, like, you also have to take care of yourself while you're doing this, because it's not that easy when you're really dealing with some of the emotional things that go on. So as a coach, what are some of the things you do for yourself when you're working with these clients to do your own self-care, to keep to keep yourself like sharp and ready? Or is there like a preparation ritual you do before you go into a client's home? Anything like that you can share that some of the other coaches watching this might be able to take as a tip from you?
Oh my gosh. I hope I have something to offer. So first of all, no, I usually, when I'm going in home, so, and there are two different aspects of this. When I go in home and I work with a client, I do have some in-person clients that are long-term that I'm coaching as well as organizing their homes, physically organizing their homes. And I'll say this, when I go in and I physically organize anything, whether I'm coaching or not, I I just dive in. I'm terrible. I'm terrible at the, oh, take before pics. Oh gosh, forget about it. I'm too eager to put order in that I always forget. Um, but there's that. I do, however, what's different is when I'm online and I'm working with clients online, which that's all solely coaching, right? So I coach them through the decluttering or organizing process, the physical aspect of it. I coach them through the mindsets, the raising their awareness, and then as well as the implementing the habits and techniques that will make the shifts and the changes last. And then we get on to the curating the home, which is the really, really fun part. That is my favorite part. But as far as what do I do for self-care? Just to circle back what I was going to say about the online coaching, I always remember to tell my clients, take your before pics because it's helpful when you look back at it afterwards. You're reflecting back on what you have accomplished, what you've done, even if it's just one small space at a time, and it's so gratifying. It feels so good. And you can stare at and revel, in the effort you've put in, the beauty you've created, the change that you've made, that instant gratification. It's just, it has so many effects. It's really, really good. And yet when I go in person to organize, I dive right in. I forget all the time to take the befores. But what I do for my own self-care. So here's something I want to point out that a lot of people think, oh, you're a professional organizer, so you aren't affected the same way. You don't get overwhelmed. You don't run into the same challenges as someone else who doesn't know how to start or doesn't know how to do these things. That's a myth. That's a myth. And I've worked in tandem with professional organizers, with like a group of us at a time, we'll go and tackle things, just a couple of us at a time, or, so there's a whole network of us and we converse, and we're good friends and things like that. So, what I will say is we do get overwhelmed. We absolutely get overwhelmed. So don't think that just because we are experienced and maybe even have the advantage of maybe a type A brain. So when we look at it, we see what to do with the disorder differently, and we can confront it. That doesn't mean that we don't also still experience some of the same feelings and have to overcome that. It's just that we have the tools to do it. It's just that, and that is exactly what I love about the coaching is that I'm teaching a man to fish instead of fishing for him and, just feeding the family, right? Like, I much prefer coaching someone and getting them, closing that gap so that they now know how to do it on their own, how to get themselves unstuck when they're feeling overwhelmed, when they feel frozen, when they're looking at their space and they're either doing the self beating up or they're just frozen because they're like, I don't even know where, I don't even know where to turn, where to look, what to do. It's the tools to know how to get out of those moments. That's what's maybe even more important than just knowing how to organize in the first place. Those are the harder moments that people need to get through to even get to the physical doingness of it. So those are some of the things that I have to apply at times. I've gone into homes, sure, I beeline, I get right to it, and sometimes, I'm going through things, I've been at it for a few hours, 4-6 hours of, working and organizing in someone's home. I'm going to get tired. And sometimes I might find myself where there's a lot of disorder. And sometimes I got to take a beat, I need to take a beat and I've got to just take a breather, take that moment and just, reset myself before I go back in. And we all have to do that. That is part of the self-care. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yes, myself. I actually have my own coach who can talk to. So I am a coach and I have one
Oh, sure. Yeah.
that
I mean, I have a
that
business
that
coach as
I
well.
yeah, that I just, run things by and talk to, and who's not as close to things as we are. So for those of you coaches who are out there that are listening, yes, having help to help you is normal. And I would actually say I don't think you could do this job without it, to be honest, because they may even bring tools that you don't have, and help you, whether or not you adopt them to your clients, but giving tools for yourself. And speaking of tools, you founded the Chamberlain Method. So I would be remiss if we didn't talk about what is the Chamberlain Method.
Okay. Yeah, right. The Chamberlain method is the three pillars of the Chamberlain method are the mindset shifts, the tools and materials, and then the techniques and habits. And I feel like you have to have all three of those to actually affect the change, to actually make it stick, and, to get the results that you really want, that are long lasting. And then when you learn all three of those aspects and you start applying all three of them and it becomes part of your lifestyle, then it's just part of your rhythm. You're doing things in stride as part of your day, just as part of the daily, activities that you would already be doing anyway. We already have to cook dinner. We already have to get ready in the morning. We already have to get the kids off to school. We already have to, whatever we have to do, whatever our day entails, these become part of your rhythm and your stride, which once you start implementing these things as habit, this is where you start actually opening up minutes of time, which becomes half hours of time, hours of time. You actually start expanding time. So you're in effect, you are creating time. We all know that time is not real, time, it's what is that, subjective or objective? I don't know the word. I'm I'm blanking on the word I'm
It's
looking for.
objective. Well,
Objective.
I mean, the number of hours in a day are subjective, but the time you have is objective because you have the opportunity to use it
Okay.
however you wish. Yeah.
Thank you. That's what I'm trying to explain. And one of the big barriers for people is that, I don't have time. I don't have time to keep up. I can't keep up with my house because I don't have time. I can barely maintain, I can just barely get to the basics, the necessities. I got to keep my family clothed in clean clothes. I got to do the laundry. I got to keep them fed. I got to obviously got to clean. You know, you got to shop for the groceries. Like these are the basics, but where do we start finding the time, the little pockets, to actually start enhancing our lives, right? Like I want to start reading this book or start studying this subject so that I can get a certification so that I can increase my value and, charge a higher rate for something or get a better job or, or I want to start opening up time so that I can start this new activity of, the physical activity, whether it's, I don't care if it's rock climbing or, just going to the gym or, I don't know, whatever's interest is yours, you want to take up a new hobby, a new interest, a new, anything that enhances you. And that's all going to enhance your mental, physical, spiritual, all of these things. Where do you find that time? If you don't have it, where do you find it? So you have to start making changes in your operating basis. And then if you don't know how to do that, that's where we start going very specifically to each person's custom life, and implementing mindset shifts, the tools and materials, and the habits and techniques, because it takes all three.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And I took a note down, the rhythm of your day. If you want to think about that, right? It is the rhythm of your day. Like, what is your rhythm? And is it
Mhm.
smooth sailing, or is it, it's like a choppy roller coaster,
Right,
right?
right.
And let's make the rhythm of your day more like, smooth sailing. So when you get up in the morning, it's kind of like you're excited to start your new day as opposed to dreading all those things that you need to do. Um,
Yeah.
I I recently did myself just a very little tweak to my schedule, as far as on my calendar where people can book meetings with me. I blocked out a couple hours that I used to allow people to book that I don't anymore. It has
Mm-hmm.
made a huge difference. You talk about
Mm-hmm.
expansion. So now I have more predictable time when a meeting would be on my calendar. I mean, it's
That's right.
little things like this that make your day and then your week, your month, your year so much different.
That's you. I mean, you're absolutely right. It is, and it's little things. It's all the micro steps that we take that that mount up. It's just like, and just to put it in perspective to for somebody else that this might click. So for example, when you have all of your little subscriptions, right? Your little financial subscriptions, right? You've got, all your little apps and all the little things. And there's so many of them you're not using, right? And, but at the end of the year, how much money have you actually spent on things that you weren't really using? And then when you start going in and eliminating apps and things, small little things here, at the end of the year, you've actually saved yourself or, accumulated or gotten back money that you were just bleeding out, you know? And it is the same thing with your time. And it's the same micro steps. It's the same micro, just going in and finding those little things and tweaks of where can I shave off this, or, what's not really serving me? What am I not really using? What time am I not really using? And I'll take this a step further, as you make these changes, here's what's, okay, this is all part and parcel. Okay. As you make these changes, and as you put order into your home and in your life, new things come into view. So here's a good example. If you have a whole countertop full of clutter, right? Or you dump out your purse, or I'll even scale it down to, for example, you're doing a puzzle. Okay. You have all the puzzle pieces on the table. As you sort the puzzle pieces into categories, you've got your edge and your corner pieces. You've got pieces that all have like the red in them. They've all got, you start sorting them into like colors. You do this with your purse. You do this with whatever's on the countertop. It doesn't matter what the disorder is, what the clutter is. When you start sorting it, as you're doing it, you'll go, oh, wait, there's another piece, another corner piece that I didn't see, or another edge piece. I didn't even see that one before. So as you're clearing the space, new things are coming into view that you didn't notice before, they weren't visible to you. So it's the same thing in your life. As you start putting the order into your home, new areas of your own personal life will start coming into view that you didn't even realize existed, that you weren't looking for before. And so your priorities change. And as your priorities change, your habits change. The activities that you're doing in your day start to change. So you may start changing how you shop at the grocery, what you're shopping for and how you're shopping. And then because you've changed how you're putting those things away in your kitchen, what you're actually eating, and, like the things that you're actually, your attention is on has been changing. And so your whole overall diet and your habits, your nutritional habits, are actually morphing and changing. They're evolving. And that's what it is. Your life is evolving all the time. And, as we put in order, new things come into view, which affects our activities and our habits. which affect the trajectory of where we're going, you know, how our life is actually changing. And I want to say one more thing because you made me think of this earlier. Oh my gosh. See, my brain races so much. I want to say everything. I get so excited. I want to say everything. Okay, it'll have to come back to me. I've lost it for now. We're gonna move on.
So yeah, so really, if I kind of take notes and I get downloads.
Yeah, thank you.
I got a download that really was kind of inspirational. It said, like, you're becoming more intentional. You're
Oh yeah.
describing a life that becomes more intentional. You're more intentional in the groceries you buy. You're more intentional with, how you get dressed in the morning. You're more intentional with all of that. And I can personally relate because I live in a northern climate and right now, it's Memorial Weekend. We're recording this over Memorial Weekend. And this is my time of year where I switch out heavy winter clothes to lighter spring and summer clothes. Because I put away the heavy winter clothes. I put them in storage bins in a storage area of my home so that I don't have to look at them all summer.
Uh-huh.
Because why do I want to look at a heavy sweater in my closet when I'm not going to be wearing it? Just like get it out of sight, out of mind, so the things I'm going to wear are right in front of me and top of mind.
Absolutely.
So because that way I'm intentionally getting dressed. And then of course I'm one of those people that put my outfit out the night before so that I don't have to spend a lot of time in the morning figuring out what I'm going to wear. But yeah, it's intentional living. I love that. That was just a download that I got.
Very
Um,
much. Yeah.
yeah, so before we close with a transformational moment, is there any other tip that you would want to that we haven't talked about? Any notes you had that you wanted to make sure
Oh,
we
girl.
bring up or
Oh my gosh, so many. Okay, so I did remember my thought. So one was it was on mentors when you were talking about having a coach and having someone to help you, coaches having coaches, but anyone. So here's the thing. How are you going to learn something new if you aren't seeking out someone or some source that has that new information of how to do something in either a new way or a completely new subject that just simply do not have any experience in or knowledge of. And that's, you don't always even have to start with a coach. You can start online. Obviously, the internet is a wealth of all kinds of knowledge, right? But it's where are you searching, finding that valuable information. And then what happens when you top out at everything that you can find just online, just electronically, and then it becomes, where do I get that personal information, that custom information, that and where do I find the person that knows more than what I've been able to search and discover on my own? So there was that. I just wanted to say that mentors are valuable, and every successful person at every level of success has enlisted a mentor one or many, many times as they've leveled up. Everyone, and you can take that to the bank. That's 100%. So
absolutely.
I just wanted to share that on the, getting help and support.
And to dovetail on that
Uh-huh.
is also when you hire someone to help you, you also have automatic accountability. Because the hardest thing when you've got a list of everything you've gotten, AI is giving you stuff, these websites give you stuff. No one is holding you accountable,
True.
putting
Yeah.
you on a schedule, making sure these things get done. And one of the things that we do as coachables, we're also your accountability buddies, right? We help make sure that you
Mm-hmm.
do the things you need to do. My prior life, I was a change management consultant, and I always tell people it takes 6 weeks to develop a new habit, but 6 days to lose it. And without having an accountability buddy, you will lose it. I guarantee you.
Yeah. Which is typically why, and it's give or take. I don't put an actual time frame on my coaching, but it's typically why my personal one-on-one coaching is roughly 3 months.
Yeah.
That's just a range. So some things I just wanted to give listeners are some actual practical things that they can do. So, we've talked a lot about
Awesome.
in theory or kind of like the overall areas, which make a lot of sense. But then, and I've done this myself. I've sat in on, master classes or, um, just listen to, podcasts and such. And you get these great inspiring kind of motivation, but then you don't know how to actually practically apply it. They don't give you literally like physical doing it. So I wanted to just offer some things, just a few things so that, somebody might be able to take it home right now and use it. And
Awesome.
yeah, so one of the things, and this is one of the simplest things people can do is start the clock. So I call it start the clock, and it's setting a timer, and it works two ways. So one thing is to decide on a task that you want to do. You have things kind of running in your mind all the time of, oh, I need to get this done. I need to do that. I need to do this. So whether you make a list, physically write out a list or not, whatever, just choose a task that you want to do and either set a timer, set 15 minutes, set 10 minutes. And also this could just go to resetting the house, right? Here's one that people are like, I can never. So just put the timer on. And whatever is confrontable for you, whether it's 10, 15, 30 minutes, it doesn't matter. And just see what you can get done within that time. Don't worry about how much you're getting done, how much you have left over, don't beat yourself up about what you don't get done. Just give yourself that 30 minutes and, or even 10 minutes. And I guarantee you and when that timer goes off, you're going to be surprised at how much more you got done than you thought you would. Because a lot of times we look around at the mess and the disorder, the clutter, and it's so overwhelming and we go, I'll never be able to. And so we don't even begin because we're already overwhelmed just by looking at it. But when you actually start the timer and just go, you know what? Fine. I'm just going to put 10 minutes. I don't care if it's 5 minutes. But the point is, when you let go of expectations and you let go of the overwhelm and you let the timer do the work for you and you just start walking things home. Just pick things up and walk them back. In that 5 minutes of time, you will find that you've gotten more done than you expected to. And you can actually take the win. I much more encourage my clients to take the win and validate themselves. And instead of, the loss of how much they didn't get done. So start validating yourself more for what you are doing. That's another mindset is the inner monologue that's going on at all times. So that's one thing. Another simple little thing is when you get home and you've gone to, Walmart, this grocery, whatever, it doesn't matter wherever you've come from. You've got things in bags. You've got the packages inside the bags, the things that you've purchased. When you get home, I encourage you, and I understand we're all super busy and we've got kids running around us and, a million distractions. But when you get home, get things out of the bags, out of the packages, and put them. This is where the systems come in, because when you have homes for things and you take them out of the packages, because packages are all uneven shapes and everything, they don't fit properly anywhere, but when you start getting the things out of packages and you start throwing that packaging and the bags away immediately, you're actually saving yourself the time and the things that will slow you down later. So that's just kind of thinking ahead. Okay, I guess that's just a couple of things. I know we're limited on time. I don't want to, I could go on, but I hope that that's at least two little things somebody can start implementing right away.
Yeah, those are wonderful tips. And I absolutely do number two every time. That's
Okay.
like, I do. I am really good about that. Because I hate having these things sitting in bags on floor or counter. To me, that's annoying.
It's really common.
So I always put them away immediately when we get home. This has been fabulous. So the whole idea of what Nicole does is to help us really beautify our space, beautify ourselves in the process, give us a beautiful transformation. And what I want to, what I want to do for our audience and for us, because we're also a part of this, is to have a moment with Archangel Jofael. So Archangel Jofael is the archangel for Libra season, but more importantly, she's the archangel to beautify our environment, our thoughts, anything that is getting in our way to help us make it work for us and put the beauty, the positivity in it. So if you would all join me, we're going to do a little meditation to Archangel Jofael. So those of you who are watching, if you want to close your eyes at this point, I always encourage you to have feet on the floor if at all possible. If not, just imagine yourself touching the floor or the ground. And we'll just take a couple of deep breaths in. Archangel Jofael, please be with us. Help us beautify our world. When negative thoughts are clouding us, help us turn them into positive ones. When we want to say can't or won't, help us turn that into can and will. As we are living our day-to-day lives, help us remember that simplicity equals beauty. Simplicity is divine. Having beautiful homes, beautiful cars, garages, organized and beautiful storage spaces is actually serving our highest and best. Help us take a look at our lives and turn what is not serving our highest and best into ways that can serve our highest and best. Help us beautify our home, the closets in our homes, the drawers in our homes, the outside spaces, whether it be that storage shed or that space outside where we accumulate all that stuff. Help us look at our garage as a place of beauty and organization that helps us live better lives. And help us change our mindsets so that we can live our lives with ease, with beauty, with grace, and intention. Be with us always. Help us cut any cords of any residual attachments that we have that get in our way of beautifying our thoughts and minds and bodies, homes and workspaces. Thank you for being with us today, Archangel Jofael. And so it is.
And so it is. That was absolutely beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. It is inspired. It gets channeled. And before we close, do you have any specific offer you want to offer our listeners? I will tell them that when this will also, whatever your website or any other information, we're going to also have in the comments listed here on the YouTube channel. So is there anything you want to, any special offer or little gift to give our listeners today?
Well, yeah, a few things. So, I never even got to, there's so much to this, just this whole subject in general. But I never even got on the curating of your home, which is, in my opinion, the most exciting part. But yeah, I want to read something really quick. Curating is the process of selecting, organizing, and presenting a collection of items, information, or content to create a cohesive and valuable experience. And it's derived from the Latin word cura, which means to take care of. And it transforms a chaotic volume of choices into an intentional, meaningful, and accessible format. And the core elements of curating are selection, which is filtering through a vast pool to find the best, most relevant, or highest quality pieces. Organization, which is structuring, categorizing, and sequencing those items to tell a story or serve a specific purpose. And presentation, which is displaying the collection in a way that adds value, context, and aesthetic appeal to the audience. This is truly the core of the Chamberlain Method. It's to get to that point where you can actually start curating. And there's a lot, there's a lot of work that needs to be done before we can get to that kind of flow, that kind of ease to where you are intentionally curating your home and your life. But that is so meaningful to me. And that is probably, I don't know what is the greatest. There's so many areas and reasons why I do this. Ultimately, I started this out saying, look, I just want to raise the quality of a person's life, one space at a time by putting in order in their home. But ultimately, yes, we're trying to raise the quality of our life, and that doesn't end. It just never ends. That never ends. What I offer clients is bringing order and ease into their homes. So the offer here really is just have a phone call, just book a call, and we will, if you book a call with me and you let me know that you heard me on this podcast, we'll talk. I don't even know what the, freebie or discount or whatever is. I'm so sorry. I didn't even come up with something like that, but we'll do something special just for being found on Jacqueline's, podcast. But just book the call, because here's the thing. There's no pressure in a phone call, in a conversation. And ultimately, we're going to find out what is the greatest need for you specifically. What is the biggest struggle, the biggest, barrier that you're running into, or, where are you at with this? It may just be a nudge. You may just need a nudge. You might just need, some tips. So it's just a little nudge. And then you might need the whole thing, but we'll come up with how that works for you as far as how it can be accessible to you. I want people to thrive.
What is the best way, your preferred way for them to contact you? Is it an email? Is it a phone? Is it a website? How would you want our listeners to contact you?
Yeah, probably the best way is just go to my website, which is www.tcmcoaching.com, the Chamberlain Method. It's tcmcoaching.com. So you can just go there, check out the site, and you can either book a call directly through there, or you can just email me at nicole@tcmcoaching.com. And I'm
Easy
always
peasy.
open to just get a straight direct email.
Awesome. And what I have going on is I've got an Are You Aligned with Your Purpose workshop on July 24th. So it's a 90-minute workshop to really go through, are you really aligned with your purpose, and where may that misalignment be? So information will be on how to register for that will also be in the comments below. With that, I just want to thank Nicole for being here on our inaugural podcast. She is the first. There are 12 episodes in the works, so please join us for all of them. Thank you for participating. Make sure you like and subscribe to this episode and to the channel in general. You'll get notifications, and I promise you'll get some extra freebies as a subscriber from me. With that, in total gratitude to all of you, until we meet again, with peace and light, have a wonderful day. Awesome.